Hey guys, so this video is going to cover my take on why a general increase in federal minimum wages is probably not a good idea and what a possible better solution could be. Originally, I was going to do a short on this, but I ended up just writing more and more and more, so it became a little more like a normal length YouTube video. It also ended up being a bit all over the place and more of a rant styled video, especially there towards the end, but I do hope that you all enjoy. So, something that has always bothered me is making its way around social media again. I keep seeing the chance for a minimum wage increase to at least $15 an hour, if not 20, 25, etc. So, I actually, despite what many may think, don't have an issue with bettering the lives of the working class by increasing the amount of money they make. However, my issue is that this is a talking point parroted by those who don't understand the basics of how our society works and idiots. Sure, you could raise the minimum wage higher, and that would indeed help the poor and working class, but only for a short period of time. It may have a small lasting effect, but all this does is make it so that companies charge more and more for products and services. Let's take the change of $7.25 for the minimum wage in 2009. These are the prices of gas in dollars per gallon on average from the years 2008 until 2011. Notice that the price per gallon was on its way back down in late 2008, as the price sat somewhere around $1.50 in the past few years, and 2008 saw a steep rise in price at the start in the middle of the year. In 2009, it started at $1.84 and continued to rise. By late 2011, it sat firmly around $3.50, where it even sits to this day. It may dip into the high 2 or even as high as $4 a gallon, but it sits normally around the $3.50 mark ever since. See the issue here? We can do this with a lot of other goods or services as well. The issue isn't that we are paid too little in the actual dollar amount. It is the fact that everything's cost is then adjusted by the average wages made in the country. So if we increase wages to $15 or $20 per hour, how long until gas is somewhere close to $8 or $10 per gallon? Those who call for an increase in minimum wage only want your votes and want to appear to be on your side, when in reality, what is needed is the limitation of profit on essential goods and services to counteract the increase in wages. Again, I'm not against increasing wages across the board for the working class, but we need something to limit companies' abilities to then just increase the cost of all the goods and services that we need just for basic human life. I'll use low numbers to make it simpler on myself to explain because I'm kind of an idiot. So, say if the average gallon of gas only costs the company $1 per gallon, then they can't turn around and sell the gas for anything more than, say, $2 a gallon, giving them a $1 profit margin for each gallon of gas sold. Limit the profit percentage, and you will find a much more sustainable solution than simply increasing wages across the board. Another example would be, say, water for homes. If it only costs around $10 a month to provide water for a home, then the company should only be able to sell that service for, say, $15 a month or $20 a month, giving them a $5 to $10 profit margin per month per person, and allowing them not only to function, but to have profits. By limiting the profits of a company, you would then make something like increasing the wages of workers far, far more effective. We wouldn't then be having the exact same conversation about wages being too low and the cost of living being too high in another decade or so. Because the root of the issue isn't the low wages, it's the cost of living to wage ratio. Right now, cost of living is becoming increasingly higher and higher, and wages aren't doing much of anything. Issue is that we have no control over the cost of living and only control the wages. There's nothing in place currently to stop companies from constantly increasing the cost of essential goods and services to keep people bottlenecked into spending a large majority of their monthly income on these essential goods and services that are required just for basic survival. Now, of course, I feel it is important to limit these things to things such as essential goods and services. I'm not saying that we should place a hard limit on the profit margins for TVs or PS5s, so don't get too excited. Simply the things we need in a modern society to survive: food, water, shelter, electricity, etc. And yes, housing would be included in this. I don't believe it to be fair for a person to only put next to nothing into the upkeep of a home to then rent it out for $1,500 to $2,000 a month. I understand that there is a large cost they paid in order to own the property to then rent it, and there is the occasional large upkeep cost that landlords have to put in order to keep a place functioning and rentable. But I feel pretty confident we could figure out some type of solution to keep both parties reasonably happy, both the renter and the landlord. The current market is just, especially for housing, absolutely insane. This is the type of idea that we need. And yes, it would take a lot of thought and probably a lot of trial and error to make it so that every party is happy with the outcomes, but to just increase wages across the board does nothing but band-aid fix an ever-growing issue within the country for quite some time now. People who work full-time jobs shouldn't struggle to just afford life, and our current solutions and social programs such as welfare or WIC are basically jokes at this point, seemingly costing the taxpayers insane amounts of money for barely any to no real progress or lasting change. This is hopefully a longer lasting and more effective solution to the problem. Of course, I don't claim to know everything, but I do know that a simple increase in wages doesn't seem to be a real solution. And yes, for this model, I do indeed believe we should have some form of a basic universal healthcare system. Not every truly elective surgery should be free to the public, but I find it far more reasonable to pull back on our current social programs such as welfare and beginning to push for a universal healthcare system that at least helps with the common person. There isn't any reason I can think of where we can have the best medical facilities in the world, yet we allow people to die in the streets from entirely preventable or treatable causes due to a lacking in their financial coverage. There is far too often horror stories of individuals or families who incur some kind of medical debt and are financially murdered by it with seemingly no possible way to escape. I don't believe it right or just for a country that supposedly prides itself on being morally right to let a family borderline starve to death and go homeless because a family member was injured in a car wreck or lost an awful fight with cancer. We like to claim to be some form of moral authority over the world and be the greatest country to ever live, and yet we constantly turn our backs on our own people in need. We'd rather spend our time bickering between ourselves, divided by party lines, than to actually aid our fellow countrymen in lasting change. Simply look at our poverty rates, our homeless numbers, look at the number of people incapable of providing for themselves or surviving in the world we have created and allowed to continue. It's time we change things up and start bettering our country instead of fighting each other. Because this isn't an issue of right or left. This isn't an issue of Republican or Democrat. This is a problem for all citizens in this country. We've allowed petty issues to divide us to the point where we would rather see people starve or go homeless or die from completely preventable things rather than just simply sit down and discuss real possible solutions to serious nationwide problems. All because we are so determined that the other side are evil or low intelligence or at the very least just the wrong side. They're the wrong team. But that kind of thinking isn't going to solve anything, because these issues don't just affect one political party or one race or one gender, one religion or ideology. These aren't single group problems. So maybe we can set aside differences for once and come together to help better each other instead of trying to tear each other down, because Clearly, that's not getting us anywhere. But that ends my little political rant. Make sure to follow me on all of the social medias, and of course, like this video, comment, subscribe for more. I plan on fixing my schedule so that we will be live streaming a lot more on Twitch, so make sure to go over to there and follow me on Twitch so you can get in on the next live stream. And as always, I really hope you all enjoyed. Whether you agree, disagree, or think I'm an absolute idiot, let me know what your thoughts are down below, and I will see you all in the next one.